Alright, and welcome to another edition of Room Speedcast. We got a couple good games for you tonight. First off, we're going to do the Remnant Invitational Final between BsK and SJR. Siri, why don't you give us a quick overview?
Okay, obviously my team was involved in this. It was a very good match. The Remnant Invitational was started in early December. It had, I think, about a dozen or more of the more experienced veteran teams competing in it, and it was a double elimination tournament. SJR is coming in from the winners bracket, where they had faced I think they faced BsK and knocked them down? No,
SWK
took them out. BsK got revenge and made their way into the finals from the loser bracket. So the rules for this is that it's going to be a best of three, one match at each of the drop weights, which I believe are 575, 675, and 775, with no restrictions on what you can bring. And if BsK wins the first best of three, then it goes to a second best of three, where BsK has to win again. This is to reflect the fact that it being double elimination and SJR is coming in from the winner's bracket.
All right, so for the first two matches, we only have the BsK perspective, but that's not going to stop us. So, Siri, is there anything else you want to say before we get started?
No, not really.
All right.
I just want to get into this.
Let's do it. All right, so the first match is BsK versus SJR on River City Night.
It's a 575-ton drop weight, and Blackstone Knights have brought 8 Shadowhawks, 3 Giraffes, and a Spider 5D. This gives them, well, this is pretty much the prototypical layout for this drop weight. On the other side from memory, I believe SJR is bringing a similar loadout, although instead of having a Spider, they have 4 Jenners, 7 Shadowhawks, and I think it's either a Trebuchet or a Hunchback, so they shave the 5 tons off the mediums instead of the lights. Overall, though, it'll be fairly similar in the capabilities of each drop deck.
And it should be a good match. Let's get into it. Starting in 3, 2, 1, launch. Alright, so River City Night is... some people have a little bit of trouble with it because it's dark. Nobody likes the dark maps, but personally it's one of my favorites. I used to have a 100% win record back on this map in the old days, but that is long past. So, Siri, why don't you start us off?
In case we failed to mention it, this is being done on Assault mode. It was SJR's choice as the home team.
Correct. And so, starting off, seeing the standard movements, BsK is regrouping back up. I would assume SJR is doing the same thing, some movement across the river in Upper City. It looks like just some lights.
Yeah, Blackstone is regrouping up on the old upper base area in B4. However, this takes them quite far away from their base. In the latest patch, or well, 2 patches ago now, the bases were moved out towards the south end of the map. And so BsK is quite far away. SJR had their lights in Upper City. They scouted this, and now they're running back.
Keep in mind this is an older match, so there are no base turrets.
There are base turrets.
No, there are not. Not
yes,
on River City Night.
Oh.
No.
Maybe?
Positive.
Okay. Well, in either case, SJR saw the movement into Park, which took Blackstone Knights away from base, and now they're pushing towards the enemy's cap and trying to take a fight on their terms.
Yep, it looks like BsK is moving all of its mechs back across through the bridge. SJR is trying to pull them in with a cap. I don't know if if that's just SJR's lights or if that's all of their mechs, and then they're going to try and flank them from behind the Citadel. It does look like there's a sizable force behind the Citadel.
SJR's lights are actually hanging out by the Citadel, getting just flank shots as BsK is moving in here.
Oh, yep, there we go. UAV
the
goes up,
cap
reveals...
all of SJR's mediums.
A ton of mediums and assaults. Or yeah, just mediums is the light drop. What am I talking about? So the brawl goes on. See target fire going down. Half cap already on BsK's point. SJR got a lot of mechs on there really, really quick. SJR is pulling back towards the edge of the map with lights behind them, trying to just sandwich BsK into this point. Oh, first kill goes down. BsK's favor. Magician takes a hit. Another good kill from T-Fun. That's an SJR kill, so the score is 1-1 right now. Our good old brawl. UAV up for BsK is giving them good sight, and they should be able to lock targets and focus fire well. Roughneck takes another one, 2-1 in favor of SJR. There's a brawl going on. It looks like a couple of SJR mechs are sort of separated out in the water, whereas BsK is really fighting on this point, making sure that they don't get capped during this brawl. 3-4 in favor of SJR right now. Big brawl. Jaeger goes down. Streamer here, Grimlock, is taking some good shots. Another kill goes down. Another kill for BsK. 2 more kills for BsK. That's 6 to... Oh, sorry. Those are kills for SJR. What am I talking about? 7-3 in favor of BsK. Or in favor of SJR. God, I'm dumb. Big brawl going on, but it looks like SJR is mopping up the remainder of BsK's forces. Component destroyed for Grimlock, but he gets taken down by Gut. There should be 3 mechs remaining for BsK. Final brawl going down. They're just trying to circle around the point. At this point, I think they probably know that it's over.
Yeah, most, if not all, of SJR's lights are very fresh. A key point during that match was when you commented on 1 or 2 of SJR's mechs being caught out in the water. Those mechs had all of Blackstone Knight's lights on them.
Yep.
And they actually tanked like hell and took a while to go down. At the same time, the SJR lights had come in behind the returning Blackstone mediums, and they burned down at least one of the Shadowhawks before they made it back to cap. And they just kept doing that throughout the match. And if we pause here to look at the score screen, yeah, if you look at this, Bradley, Schopenhauer, and Brian Becker all went down with sub-100 damage in the mediums, and those would have been the first 3 picked off during the return or shortly after.
Yep. I would like to point out that, oh no, those were friendly arty kills at the end. Oh wow, I didn't even notice that. Okay. Last kill of the game was a friendly arty strike from BsK.
But that same arty strike, I think, actually took out...
I think it got Roughneck. Or no, it got T-Fun. It got T-Fun, my bad. But yeah, so a good match on River City. Siri, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the strategies that both teams used in that one?
Well, I think Blackstone was trying to regroup up top, go around and attack SJR from an unexpected angle and be the aggressor. However, SJR very quickly scouted it and made the snap decision in order to push for Blackstone's cap and preempt that move. So just a quick jab before the enemy's punch landed. And that basically just forced Blackstone to return, and the SJR's lights were ready to start harassing and picking them off. If you look at the score screen, Toast actually had 525 damage, and that would be because he was the first Jenner to return and just got a very good artillery strike on that packed cap. And that's the risk you run when you're getting on the cap. Actually, I think in one of our practices the other week, Harry had a pentakill with his airstrike against the team that was capping.
That was a great screenshot.
SJR realized that they wouldn't be able to finish this, that the enemy's force would return, so they made the smart move, coming off cap, and then just killing things as they returned as best they were able. And Blackstone did manage to pull back quite a bit. They took down 5 of the mediums, 1 of the Jenners, and at least 1 of the remaining Shadowhawks was stripped. So the big factor would be that SJR's Jenners had gone pretty much unmolested during that match.
Yeah. A good first match that goes in favor of SJR. And I think without further ado, let's jump into game number 2. It's on Alpine. Alright, and so we have drop number 2 between BsK and SJR. This time it is on Alpine. So Siri, why don't you take us through the drop decks?
Okay, for Blackstone Knights, we have 4 Jenner Fs, a Cicada 3M, that's going to be 2 PPCs, and 7 Cataphract 3Ds. This is pretty much a classic loadout. It's very simplistic in its execution, and that's not to say it's bad. It's beautiful in its simplicity, in that it tends to be slightly faster than a pure Highlander drop deck, although each individual member is slightly less
Squishier.
durable, slightly squishier, yes. The individual parts, they mesh together well, and it makes it very simple to use instead of having to micromanage like 4 different parts when you have mediums and assaults and lights and potentially heavies as well. And from memory on the other side, I think we have something like 2 or 3 Highlanders, 2 Victors, 3 Shadowhawks, and 4 or 5 lights. And let's get this underway.
Alright, starting the match in 3, 2, 1, launch. Alright, so once again, this is the stream from Grimlock's perspective. There's a problem with Jaeger's stream, so we're just doing one side this time. Alright, so Siri, tell us about Alpine. Obviously, there's no restrictions in this game, or in this tournament, so what are you going to see in terms of positioning and builds on a map like this?
Well, Blackstone is starting from the east, and that gives them easy access up I-10 to the very powerful J9 I-10 H10 plateau. That's central, it gives them a good overlook on their base, and it gives them the option to get aggressive. And again, we've covered this in previous casts, but this does tend to be the slightly favored side on this map.
Mm-hmm. If you're slow enough, if you've got a bunch of Highlanders and stuff like that, you can make a push from the... Well, sorry, if your opponent is slow enough and you spawn on the other side, you can make a push and try and sneak up on them. You can approach pretty quickly on the other side of that I-9 hill. But one of the things that is good about this build from BsK is with all these cataphracts and light mechs, this is a very, very mobile drop. And keep in mind, this is an older match. This is before the jump jet change. So as you can see, we've got Grimlock climbing this hill like none other because jump jets recharge really quick and you can spam that shit.
Even post jump jet change, you can get up there pretty quick.
It's true.
The initial thrust hasn't been changed, and you just have to spam that button as if your life depended on it.
So we see some SJR lights in the background there, scouting, just making sure that they know where the opponent is. BsK is really regrouping. They've got all but one of their mechs on the top of this hill at this point, and they're pretty content to just cap. Right now, SJR can't really go for a base cap due to the fact that air already is unrestricted, so if they try and pile in on cap, they're going to get airstruck to death, and if they try and push up on this point, not really a ton they can do without taking a ton of fire. Oh, good airstrike goes down there, though. Or, arty strike.
It didn't really do that much damage, though. The key thing in the base capping on this is that from where our streamer Grimlock is, it's only about a grid square and a half away to that base, and I think that's about 700, 750 meters. So while it's in fall off for the weapons, it is still quite a bit of damage if you get pegged. And you're firing up onto that plateau, and so the person who holds the plateau and the high ground dictates when he exposes himself. Meanwhile, though, we're seeing SJR being quite far down away from that plateau. They don't want to try to assault it. They're, I think, G7 along the ridge, and that's a good 1,000 meters away, so near zero damage.
It appears as though SJR is trying to push up to the top of Radio Tower, but I can't get a good line of sight at him from Grimlock's perspective. It does look like they are shifting more to the center hill, so yep, there we go. We see some Highlanders, a Victor, and they are moving up towards that Radio Tower ridge in the F8 area.
Yeah, most of SJR's lights are already on the comms tower, and the rest of the team is kind of following.
Oh, arty strike goes down in the middle of everyone, and some decent hits, it looked like. And even if they weren't decent, it sure looks pretty, and it gives us something to talk about.
Well, in the meantime, BsK is shifting down towards I-8. They realize that SJR is going wide, and that takes them out of the defense angle on their base. And they've thrown their lights off the peak down into I-8 and are rushing for that cap. In SJR's favor, it has been spotted, and the rest of the lights are returning. But they are kind of badly out of position here.
Yeah, BsK, it looks sort of sees the lights going and just kind of pulls back, takes some shots, but it doesn't seem like they take a ton of damage. A little bit of smoke from a couple mechs, some more airstrikes and arty strikes go down. But I think the real battle right now is going on for the lights.
Yeah, I think BsK was thinking about sending their cataphracts down towards the cap as well, but then when they saw how far SJR up was, or how far SJR's assault mechs up were, how far SJR's assault mechs were towards their base, they decided to just stay on defense. and force SJR into making the first move, or rather the next move.
Yeah, and it looks like BsK, they're just retaking this position on the top of the hill, Overwatch on the base. Have their lights returned, or are they still moving? Yo, they are on the base. Yep, there's a light skirmish on the base, it looks like, between BsK and SJR. I can't tell the odds, but if I remember correctly, BsK has more lights in this drop, don't they?
They have 4 Jenners and a Cicada. The Cicada, however, is not with them. It is currently making its way over, and SJR has returned with 5 lights. Now, the rest of the SJR team has abandoned comms tower, and they are responding down towards their base. And BsK is seeing this and mirroring their movement.
This
Again,
is
note
just
that
fun to watch.
BsK's fracs are slightly faster than SJR's force, and they are already slightly closer.
Oh, and some dumbass pilot, Thrax, takes a kill, but then gets killed himself over on the base. Don't know who would put him in a match. Skirmish continues to go on between the light mechs, between BsK and SJR. The score is even, but BsK does have the mobility advantage, and it looks like they're going to be able to cut off SJR's reinforcements and leave themselves with a light advantage.
Yeah, SJR's Shadowhawks are going directly back to base. They move much faster than anything else here, but they're also getting pretty cut up by the other Cataphract snipers.
T-Fun gets a kill.
That was one of the lights. We're now 2-1 up on lights in SJR's favor. However, the assaults for SJR are being caught out just completely in the open by the entirety of BsK's Cataphract force.
This is a wide open engagement. SJR is way out in the open, and BsK has this really easy to jump snipe from hill. Piemaker goes down, 2-2 tied up. That's an assault kill. Ooh, Magician and Harry both go down, 4-2 in favor of BsK. BsK's mechs are really getting a great position on SJR's in this match.
Yes, that was 2 Victors and a Highlander going down from the SJR side, and plus a Jenner, whereas BsK is only down 2 Jenners right now.
And BsK is doing something really important. They are not just charging headlong into the other team. They're flanking a little bit wider to make sure that they can get this hill on SJR's remaining mechs. And they see Victor and 2 Highlanders wide open. They get, well, not wide open, but they're on the back of the hill. They get good lines on them. They're kind of just swinging around through them. Lights have pulled away, it looks like, and Howl goes down 4-3. SJR takes another kill, kind of catching its way back up. A couple of these Cataphracts are getting kind of out of position. Grimlock is way out in the open, but White Panther disconnects. That's no good. But another kill for BsK, but Grimlock goes down. I believe the score is 6-4 currently.
Yeah,
5-4.
For the record, White Panther was in a completely fresh Shadowhawk.
Ooh. Oh, he's SJR. Oh shit. Okay, so SJR is effectively down 2 kills at this moment. Some very, very damaged Cataphracts for BsK, but also damaged Shadowhawk up there on the hill. Legal Department takes a kill for SJR. Score set to another kill goes down for Brian Becker. 7-5 in favor of BsK. Really 8-5 with that disconnected Shadowhawk. Good RDs go down, and a mech doesn't overheat now. Some team damage right there from Black. That's rough. Full alpha in the back. Oh, legged Jenner though. Legal Department is sitting on the hill, a wide open target for anybody who wants to take him. SJR takes another kill, but 8-6, essentially 9-6. I think BsK is going to take this one. They're pushing onto the base, getting themselves a really good engagement, and it just looks like it's just a couple of light mechs left. Wide open. Oh yeah, 2 more players go down, 10-6. Basically, this is BsK's game.
Yeah, and worth noting that right now, BsK has 2 stripped Cataphracts.
Yeah.
Blackie and 1 other are the only operational, plus 2 Jenners that are both crit out.
Yeah, this was definitely a close fight. That full health Shadowhawk would have really made a difference. Jaeger goes down, and that means it's just that Shadowhawk disconnected. And that's the game. BsK takes game number 2. and ties up the series. Let's pause it at the end here and take a look at mechs and damage. Once it pops up, of course. Alright, so, mechs and damage.
Well, if we're looking at this, pretty much the story of the match was Harry78, the Magician, and well, actually, Harry and the Magician going down pretty early with only 150 damage each.
Yeah, they were those two mechs that got caught out in that transition from the hill back to base.
Right. Then there's this other scrub and a Jenner, only did 51 damage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know why anybody would play him.
Yeah, he's
but
trash.
Really, if we look back, the light fight was pretty even. However, in addition to that return where the Victor and the Highlander got cut off for SJR, the three Shadowhawks had been sent back to base to help out on the light fight, and so for the entire time that they were returning, they were out of the fight with the heavies. However, when they got back to the base, the light fight had pretty much already concluded, and so for that, the duration of that move was wasted time, basically. And then on top of that, Panther ended up disconnecting.
Yep, that disconnect really hurt SJR in this match.
So long and short of it is that SJR had just a couple mismaneuvers that BsK saw the opportunity and capitalized upon, and kudos to them for doing so.
Yeah, it was a good game. So that ties the series up, and this is a best of 3, so that means we will go into the final match. Anything else you want to say about that one, Siri?
No, not really.
All right.
Just a reminder that if BsK wins this next one, there is a second best of 3.
Correct.
So let's get into it.
All right, going into game number 3. Alright, welcome to game number 3 between SJR and BsK, the final match of the possibly second to last game of the Remnant Invitational. BsK fighting its way back up from the loser's bracket. Score is currently 1-1. We have our third drop on Crimson Straits. Siri, why don't you take us through the drop decks?
Okay, this is being played on Assault, and there will be turrets on this map.
Yes.
And I am 100% sure on that, unlike the other time during the first match.
Correct, I can see them on the minimap.
From SJR's side, we have 7 Highlander 733Cs, kitted out with your normal loadout. Remember that this is pre-jump jet nerf, so still just 1 jump jet, and no concessions to fitting. We have 1 Shadowhawk 2D2, and we have 5 Generafs just for pure striker potential. Now, on the other side, Blackstone Knights, their stream came in halfway through the countdown sequence, so I'm not entirely sure what they have, but I think it looks something like 7 Highlanders, maybe a Cataphract, and then also like 4 Jenners and a Spider. But don't quote me on that.
This could be their PPC build as well, but I'm sure they'll tab in as soon as the match starts. Alright, let's get into it, Siri.
Okay, I'm gonna give a countdown for SJR's side, and then I'll tell you go for BsK side to get it synced up.
That works perfect.
So, 3, 2, 1, go for SJR. Going through the launch sequence. A couple seconds here. And go for BsK.
Perfect. I think it's synced up just fine. Yeah, timestamps look great. Alright, so we got the dual overlay going on for this drop. So something important to note is that SJR does start very clumped, whereas BsK is pretty spread out. Jerry, what is it with the turrets on this map? These are some of the more spread out ones. How is this going to affect BsK and SJR's playstyles?
It won't make that big of a difference. If you want to claim an area, yeah, sure, you have to knock the turrets down. When you have 7 or 8 Highlanders, that's just 1 volley each from them when they're active. However, lights alone, you can run by them, you'll take a little bit of damage. And if you're sitting on cap, there's only actually like 1 turret that's in range, at least for BsK's cap. But SJR is rushing the pass with their Jenners, just seeing if there's anything there to pick off. BsK, knowing that that was a problem outcome, didn't really send their Jenners there, or at least didn't commit hard enough to the point where they'd be caught out. SJR did get a few laser volleys off and put a bit of damage, but it was at range against fast-moving targets, so nothing serious. But that denied a bit of scout intel for BsK. Not that they could probably not predict the fact that SJR is just going to take this upper platform area until they can suss out exactly where BsK is. And speaking of that, BsK is just holding back in the B4A4 area, playing it safe behind the mountain. SJR sends a light up, Tifa 90, and he's getting eyes down toward BsK's position. One thing that BsK is doing right now is keeping themselves very spread out, so that any RDR airstrikes will only be hitting one person. And they're also trying to land an RDR airstrike back on that Jenner. If you do let yourself get caught by that RDR air in your light, you're going to take massive damage, if not be killed outright. And that's actually decided 1 or 2 games when the light on the mountain got a little cocky.
Yeah, you've got to be real careful.
Grimlock actually lands a sniper shot, but it was about 800-900 meters, so it didn't really do much.
And so right now, BsK is they're spread out, but they are in the position where it pays to be more spread out, whereas SJR is just holding to this platform, making sure that they've got tight lines of fire on anybody that approaches. BsK is doing a good job of just kind of keeping eyes where they need to, not taking too much fire at the moment.
Blackstone is actually sending their own lights up the mountain from their side, and they're just going to peek over, drop a strike on SJR on the platform, and then hightail it out of there. Both teams are sort of just at an impasse, trying to feel each other out and get an idea where they could push and attack.
Yeah,
right now the options are actually better for SJR here. We've discussed this before, but when you have the high ground, you have the choice of where you go. And how this map, it's kind of a triangle involving that pass, and you can either go off left, go off right, through the pass, and the aggressor will have the advantage here.
Yeah, and BsK does sort of see this and realizes that if SJR is going to make any move at all, it's going to have to be towards their base. So they fall back using these turrets to their advantage. And SJR is actually moving down, it looks like.
Yeah, SJR is just rotating out to the right in D5, D6. They're going to knock down this turret here. It's not really a huge threat, but it's something they have to do so that damage doesn't end up stacking up.
Mm-hmm.
There's no actual hard contact. There's shots being exchanged, but it's 700 meters plus.
Yep.
Just a little bit of damage.
PvE, bitch, as Grim would say.
What SJR's lights are doing are they're staying up on the mountain. They're keeping an eye out for pretty much how BsK is going to move so that the assaults can respond appropriately. And they're also keeping an eye out towards the water to see if BsK's lights try and do a run-by and go for cap. Yep, so that they can respond to it.
SJR is making sure to take out these turrets, making sure that whatever position they're in, they're very safe in it, and they don't have to worry about taking extra damage from sources that they shouldn't have to worry about. So they take out those 2 turrets on the island, and now they're just kind of sitting. BsK is moving down to intercept on the other side. Again, staying close to their turrets, those do help a lot if you're in a close fight. Just kind of taking a sniping battle right along the 6-line water.
Yeah, BsK has been a couple guys caught out without very good cover. Kilo, Echo, Search Rent Howl, a couple Cataphracts are just out in the open. They're not getting torn apart due to range and the fact that it's still very open if SJR puts their guys out there. But at this point, the sniper fight is going in SJR's favor.
Yep, some really good shots go down. There was a nice RD that was laid down by SJR. BsK, it looks like they're kind of regrouping, pulling back a little bit more. They're kind of milling about. There's no real direction. I think they're going to try and move up a little bit more in C5. Try and get away from that long-distance engagement in that water where SJR has those very clear lines of fire.
Yeah, and both teams are healthy enough that SJR can't just push straight in, especially with the turrets, especially with perhaps the BsK lights getting into the fight. So they're applying some moderate pressure and keeping BsK pinned near their base. But knowing this, knowing that they currently have a losing engagement, BsK is rotating around into Charlie 5, and they're going to be looking to swing and attack SJR from a new direction.
Yeah, and BsK, it appears that they are moving, so they're moving their lights along the water, and their heavies and assaults are moving up towards C5. They're trying to distract them while also getting in a flank maneuver, but SJR has its lights up on the hill, ready to come in right behind the assaults, and they don't even see it coming. This is going to be rough. SJR has very good lights, and they excel in taking down assault mechs.
Except that Siri guy.
Yeah, he's bad. Harry goes down to try and howl, but the score is even at 1-1. Ooh, a couple more kills go down. Grimlock kills Gut, the Gadget kill, yep. So the score is currently 2-1 in favor of BsK. SJR actually has a bunch of mics, they're backing out into the water. They look like they're taking a lot of extra damage. Seriothrax takes down Schopenheimer. Jaeger goes down to Toast. Score is 3-2 in favor of BsK when Grimlock goes down.
Yeah, this is an all-out brawl between both sides. You've got the heavies charging pretty much straight at each other, and both teams' lights are just on the enemy's heavies and just burning them down as quick as they can. So it's just a pure DPS race right now.
Yep, and the score has stabilized 4-4. A big RD strike goes down, takes off Guts AC UX. So light mechs brawling over here for BsK. It's impossible to tell what's going on even with two streams, but some good fights going down. Score, a couple more kills go down, 6-6. Both teams very, very even. SJR, it looks like, has a couple of really cored Highlanders left. Oh, and all the guns go down off that Highlander, leaving SJR with one less mech. Oh, but T-Fun sneaks up behind a power down Jenner and gets a really good alpha off into its back. Looks like we have a couple of Highlanders without weapons just kind of bumping into each other and fighting. Few mechs that are just standing there aren't really doing much. This looks to just be a light battle remaining. Oh,
yeah, at this point, BsK is out of heavies. What they have left is stripped.
Oh, a good kill. Score is currently 8-6 in favor of SJR with a really good kill on a Jenner there. SJR has a remaining Highlander, it looks like.
Yeah, they've got one Highlander plus all their lights, -1, and BsK only has lights left, and those are being targeted out right now.
Yeah. And Magician goes down, yep. 7-9 in favor of SJR. This is a close match. I'm not sure where it's going to go. We see... Oh, but that's a really, really core Jenner for BsK. And SJR... I mean, T-Fun is virtually untouched. Oh,
yes,
takes down...
actually got cored very early into the fight, but he managed to slip away, and he's just been pecking from outside the fight, and he did a really good job staying alive there.
Oh, and some glorious kills goes down. I believe those are the last of the lights. Highlander overheats, and that is the match.
He actually powered off, not overheating. He didn't have weapons.
I was wondering how he could have overheated. I didn't think he had weapons, but he powers down. SJR takes the final kill, and that means SJR takes the best of 3 series. There will be no second best of 3, as SJR was coming out of the winner's bracket, beating BsK from the loser's bracket, and that is the game. A good series.
And what a way to send it off with a very, very tense last match.
So this score, I mean, 5 mechs alive to 0, but one of those Jenners was cored, and that Highlander didn't have any weapons left, did he?
Nope.
Yeah. So that was a very close match, and in the end, it did just come down to those Jenners. And SJR did have the larger light pack. They had the 5 Jenners and a Shadowhawk and 6 Highlanders, as opposed to 4 Highlanders, 4 Cataphracts, and 4 Jenners. So that is the power of SJR's Light Lance, in my opinion.
Yeah, our Light Lance...
Sorry, reinforced Light Lance.
The Shadowhawk was running with the Assault, so it was really only a +1. And it was me, so that doesn't count. Degraded Light Lance. Lowest Jenner. But no, what happened there was that with the way the BsK maneuvered, they put themselves right below the mountain. I don't know if they realized that our Light Lance was perched right out there, because our Light Lance was deliberately keeping its head down and just waiting on the calls from the heavies to just come boiling over and dropping as one in behind. And I believe we got a very quick kill on one of the Cataphracts, legged another Highlander, probably a second and third Highlander being legged. and just overall having the 5 Jenners to their 4, and the slightly superior positioning, our Jenner Lance was able to burn them down just a touch quicker. Meaning in the end we had 1.5 Highlanders left up, and that was enough to tip it back. Despite the initiative actually going to BsK on that push.
It was such a close game, and it's always good to see final games like that in series go down to something as close as that. Because you never want to just go through like a final series and just have it be like a 3-0 or a 5-0 wipe. So it's good to see 2 good games and a really good last game.
Yeah, I have to say that was a very enjoyable series for me to play, and props to BsK for bringing that fight. That was quite close.
Yeah, they did a really great job. I have to commend them. It was a lot of fun. BsK as a team has really improved in recent months to the point where they're definitely a tier 1 team. All right.
I do have to make one correction.
Yeah.
Magician at this end said, thanks to Remnant. A bit more specifically, thank you to Lego Pirate. He put this on, and he has since departed Remnant to join SIG. So, thank you to you, Lego Pirate and company. It was a very enjoyable tournament, and hopefully when we have another downtime, you can put something like this together again.
Yeah, it was a fun tournament to watch. We casted a bunch of games out of this. I believe all of the final games we were able to cast, so that was indeed a blast. Alright, I believe our next game is from the Marik trial of position between SWK and cReddit. Sorry, cReddit. I need to actually say that correctly now. So, Siri, do you have anything? So the Marik Civil War is starting up, and to do so, Antonius Rex, the person behind the league, has decided to do a trial position, just like last season, to determine proper rankings for teams and make sure that everybody is on an even level and the teams aren't unbalanced. So this trial position is designed to put each team under a varying set of circumstances to make sure that they have a good head for the league and what's going on. And I believe it was 4 rounds, the last of which is finishing up this week before the actual teams are released and the tournament begins. And so SWK was the winner, the Tier 1 winning team last year, and I believe cReddit, or cReddit, god damn, I'm just never going to get over that one. cReddit is new to Marik Civil War, are they not, Siri?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, so this is, Marik Civil War is actually one of my favorite leagues. The matches are very fun. For the trial position, there is no air and no arty, so it means a lot more fighting and a lot less. You can camp a little bit more, but with some of the restrictions, it's harder to use just those very campy positions. It's played on Conquest, which is, I believe, one of the only leagues that is entirely Conquest, with the exception of home planets, which are the home team's choice.
One thing worth mentioning is that actually week to week on the trials of position, there are different restrictions over and above just no arty and air. However, for this week, week 4, there were no additional restrictions.
Correct.
For example, some of the other ones that could happen would be, say, no jump jets, no PPCs, no ECM, no lock-on missiles.
This week,
but this one is just no arty air.
Yeah,
no further restrictions.
Correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get that loaded up.
All right, indeed. So we are going to drop into the first game between SWK and cReddit. All right, welcome to the first game between Swords of Cantares and cReddit. For the first drop, we only have SWK's perspective, but that's okay. So, a little bit of a blunder. Thought it was going to be Conquest. It's not. Siri, why don't you explain why?
Well, when Ruffle was describing Marik, he was correct. It's supposed to be all Conquest. However, on the night that this match was played, I think there were 10 teams trying to sync, and SWK and cReddit had tried half a dozen times and just gotten missyncs. So they said, screw it, enough of this. If you guys agree, we'll just play it out on skirmish. And both teams were frustrated, so they were just like, okay, let's go. Now, obviously, when lobbies come in, which should be 1 month and 19 days. Not that I'm keeping track.
History has a stopwatch.
This will this will hopefully not happen again, and then the only missyncs will be when somebody disconnects because stable game client and good internet, and or somebody forgets to bring ammo or something. So yeah, the first drop, I believe, is played at 550 tons.
Correct.
And there were some restrictions on what you can bring. You have to have 5 different chassis, and you can only have max 4 of a chassis.
Correct.
And that's slightly laxer for this light drop. For the midweight and heavy drop, you can only have 3 of a chassis, and you still need 5 different. So you end up seeing a bit more diversity in what's brought to these drops, but it still follows pretty loosely the same theme that you'd see anywhere. So from SWK, we've got 2 Jenner Fs, 2 Jenner Ds, a Firestarter K, 3 Hunchback 4Ps, 3 Shadowhawk 2D2s, and a Kintaro 18, which is probably streak loadout. And so you can see that the Kintaro and the Firestarter are brought just to... that while they're good in and of themselves, they also fill out those criteria for max. And since I don't have the credit stream, and I haven't skipped ahead to the end, I don't know what credit has.
We'll figure it out. Alright, so, let's get into game number 1. 550 drop, no air, no arty.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, click.
Dude, I was so happy the
and
day they
our
added...
streamer is Imminent and a Jenner.
Yes. Man, I was so happy when they added this boot up sequence. It feels so cool. Okay, so SWK has spawned on the C5D5 side. On Skirmish, the spawns are a little bit different. They are laterally instead of horizontally. So they are currently regrouping on the top of this hill.
SWK's lights are just probing out Theta, the center area, trying to establish just scouting and dominance of the center of the map. Meanwhile, their mediums are grouping up C4, probably also going to push up aggressively. And they've seen an Ember. Knowing Credit, there's probably more than one. Credit likes their Embers. I think that's Addy and Wispsy's influence a little.
Mm-hmm. And so SWK with these are fairly brawly streak builds. I'm pretty sure. I think we got some SRMs in there, so or some streaks. So they're gonna try and ball up and try and hit him pretty hard. On Skirmish, I'm used to talking about these matches like they're on Conquest, which is like, well, you've got to maneuver positioning while capturing points. But on Skirmish, really, it's scout, stick together, kill the enemy team.
That's simplifying it a little, but yeah, the basic concepts do apply. The team that gets a good engagement in a cohesive manner will win. SWK has scouted that. Oh,
White
shit.
Death disconnects.
White Death 5. That's one of the credit lights.
That is
has disconnected. Although I think they play this one out.
Yep. If it's after a minute, the match should be still played. Can't believe I didn't know that this happened. But yeah, so everybody is paused. They're talking about it. Tony is the leader of this league, and that's gentlemanly. 35
Yep, they are
ton.
being
Wow.
good sports, and they're gonna kill one of their own lights.
Wow, way to go, SWK. So PSU takes a team kill, first kill of the game, and play resumes at the 12-minute and 35-second mark. Cool, I have never seen that before. That's fun. Okay, so they are now killing that disconnected Jenner on top of the hill. At least that's what I would assume they're doing. Yep, White Death 5. That's probably why we don't have a streamed match from White Death's perspective.
Yeah. In any case, getting back on topic, Credit is hanging out in E4. SWK is trying to flank over to their right and then probably push in if they see the opportunity, because they'll be pushing in over top, whereas Credit will be having to deal with a corner, so the focus fire is going to be easier for SWK.
Yep.
The difficulty here is that SWK has 3 hunchbacks, and as we all know, those don't jump.
No, they do not, and they go down fairly quick, but those are the Ps, I believe, which means they are packing a lot of medium lasers, which against lights do a lot of damage if you can hit them for the full duration.
Yeah, the traditional loadout for the Hunchback 4P nowadays is 6 lasers, 5 in the hunch, 1 in the head, so 6 in the torso, and then 1 in each arm. And that gives you some easy movement around the ghost heat penalty.
Yeah, and a brutal alpha.
So SWK has actually swung all the way back to the left, and they're, instead of chasing the tail of the credit push, they're moving to meet it head on.
Yep.
And the teams have gotten in quite close and now are in range for the AC-20 fire to be exchanged.
Yep. Oh, the Trebs are Treb pushes over Icarus for the for credit, and SWK focuses down. Legs go down, 1 leg down, and looks like they're going to strip that AC-20 off quickly and make short work of that. Current score is 1-1 with those disconnects, so nobody has actually taken a kill yet. We see some embers swooping around behind SWK's mechs. Looks like SWK is kind of being forced onto a back foot, whereas Credit is really pushing in. That Treb is still alive and kicking. I don't know if it lost its AC-20, but at the very least it's got 2 medium lasers left. 3 kills currently for SWK over Credit. They are doing a great job in this brawl, swinging around, dropping down low, swinging back high, keeping those legs away from being targeted by Credit's heavier mechs. Tony goes down as a unit leader. He is prone to being out of position. That's a general rule. 4-3 in favor of SWK right now. Credit picks up a couple extra kills. A legged Ember on the top of the ridge there gets focused down. That leg is almost gone, and he goes down. Craven takes him down. Some of these Shadow Hawks for Credit are looking really weak. It's 7-4 in favor of SWK, and it looks like they are slowly crushing out a lead in this brawl. Legs and components are getting sheared off everywhere. Third World goes down, picking up another kill, but at the same time Iridian takes another kill. SWK still pulling ahead. Legged Shadowhawk in the brawl. Looks like SWK appears to have gone bottom down, taking all of Credit's light mechs down first and leaving their mediums, which is weird, because normally you want to get those AC-20s off the field as quick as possible. Twinkie goes down probably to one of those AC-20s, but the score is currently 10-7, and this is going to be SWK's game. Yep, legs are about to go down on that Shadowhawk, and then there's just that 1 remaining Ember. The Shadowhawk fights with everything it's got, but it goes down. And I think they're just hunting down an Ember. So that was a fairly last Ember goes down, and SWK takes the first game. So that was a fairly even engagement. Credit had to push over a little bit of a disadvantageous hill at the start there, but other than that, it seemed like that just came down to target calling and piloting.
Well, you're right. At the start of that engagement, that first trap that came in, very easy target for the defenders just to focus out. I think his leg annihilated within like 7 to 8 seconds, and the next target followed quickly. SWK pulled up 2 kills. However, at one point, Credit was managing to pull back. I think it was 4-4. And if you look at the score screen here, you see that they had 3 Embers and Generaf. And if those Embers are left alone, as the match goes on, they're going to, with those machine guns, start racking up that DPS in that long extended brawl. Whereas the Generafs they're going to start hitting their heat threshold, and once you blow your cool shot, you basically are reduced down to firing just the 3 medium lasers. And so the Generaf's strength is getting into and out of a fight. However, SWK brought the Jenner Ds with streaks, and unlike the AF, they have great sustain, especially against light mechs. So I'm willing to bet that Iridian in that one Jenner D was just going after light mechs the entire time, trying to neutralize them and stop those embers racking up damage in the long game. And that's why we saw those lights die first, is because SWK recognized the threat the embers posed. SWK was actually a little poorer off in that regard, since Blackjack Raider and the other Jenner D was the one they sacrificed to make it even. And if it had been another one of their lights, that would have just been additional streaks for them to take the light mechs down faster.
Yeah. I probably would have killed Catch in the Firestarter personally, but that's just
I would have killed Caravan, but that's just because it's Caravan.
All right. So that was a good first match on Canyon. Wow, I'm just out of it for a second there. Good first match on Canyon. This is a best-of-5 series. While the league is normally played in Conquest, the entirety of this best-of-5 will be played in Skirmish, because they wanted to sync, and I can understand that. I'm glad we didn't cast this live.
Actually, playing matches is generally preferable to just sitting there watching a spinning circle.
For sure.
I'm just looking through these damages to try and see if there's any other analysis that can be provided, and I mean, if you look at SWK's side, it seems like their Hunchback 4Ps got limited and targeted out first, because cReddit recognized their threat.
Mm-hmm.
If you let those go long game, they get very good at taking the legs off of your last surviving mechs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their Kentaro got 215 damage, and that's going to be mostly streaks.
Yep.
Catacresis in the Firestarter was the hero for SWK, 100 extra damage over everybody else.
Yeah, 3 kills, 7 assists, he did good.
And if you look at cReddit's side, I'm willing to bet that if you ordered that damage for the mediums, then that would pretty much be the order they died.
Yep, I would have to agree with you there. Yeah. Alright, well, a great first game. Let's go into game number 2, Siri.
Okay.
Alright, game number 2 between BsK and SWK. Or not between BsK. God, I'm an idiot.
Jesus Christ.
Been a long day, what can I say? Alright, game number 2 between SWK and cReddit. SWK is up 1-0 in this best of 5. Let's go into the match number 2. Alright, and welcome to drop number 2. This time we have both perspectives. Hopefully that means that White Death makes it all the way through this one. So, game number 2, Skirmish on HPG Relay. Siri, why don't you take us through these drop decks?
Slight correction, just because I can. It's HPG Manifold. Raffle, you scrub.
Oh, such a scrub. Well, to be fair, if you go on Smurfy, it's the moon base. So...
Okay, well, once again, for the drop decks, it has to be 5 different chassis, this time only max of 3 of a chassis. And so for SWK, we are seeing 2 Generafs, a Jenner D, a Firestarter K, 3 Shadowhawks, 3 Cataphracts, and 2 Victors. On cReddit's side, we have, once again, many Embers, 3 Embers, 2 Generafs, 3 Cataphract 3Ds, 3 Victor 9Ss, and a Trebuchet 7K to round that out. So what does that mean in terms of just actual performance? Well, cReddit has a bit more of a light lance presence. They have 5 to SWK's 4. Their lights are also built purely for tearing down heavies. That's what the Embers and the Generaf excel at. Whereas SWK has brought a Firestarter K, which is sort of jack of all trades, and the Jenner D, which is sort of light hunting-ish. SWK has a bigger medium presence in those Shadowhawks, but cReddit has a heavier assault end, having the 3 Victors and the 2 Cataphracts. Now, I found it interesting that they brought the 9S over the Dragon Slayer. So I'm actually wondering if those 9Ss have like AC-20 and PPC. Is that the AC-20 capable variant? I think it is.
It's the one that also has 3 missile ports.
So I'd be interested to see what they're running on those Victor 9Ss. The Dragon Slayer is your traditional jump sniper because it has the ballistics in the right arm and the energy in the right torso. So its convergence is a lot better than any of the other Victors, and that it actually drives me insane playing the other Victors because I'll be just like, okay, well, I hit him with my PPCs, but my AC-20 is about 70 yards to the left. Fuck my life. I'd normally give the strategic advantage to cReddit just because they have more lights, but this is skirmish, so no strategy. Or, well, no strategic objective.
Aren't you simplifying it a bit much, Siri? No, I'm just kidding. Alright, well, enough speculation. Let's get into it, man.
Okay.
Alright,
on my mark, 3, 2, 1, click. You know, the other thing to note is just how uniform these teams are in their allegiances. If you look at cReddit side, it's all Lone Wolf, and if you look at SWK, they've got all those Davion insignias. And, like, most of SWK, they're actually in their purple and yellow uniform. I know on our drops, it's like, everybody brings their own camel scheme, and, like, we're all whatever the hell we want to be in terms of factions. We have, like, 6 Steiners, 3 Lone Wolves, a Cretan, and a fucking Liao player.
There is one guy in my clan who uses a Karita tag, and we always just yell at him.
I don't even fucking know why anybody would go Liao.
Dude, wait. There's a Liao fact? I thought that was just in there for jokes. Okay, but in all seriousness, there's actually, like, shots being fired. A couple medium lasers go down as everybody enters. It looks like White Death and cReddit are trying to take the high side of this map. They're trying to go underneath the actual relay itself. A good brawl going down, actually. Embers and Jenners, SWK commits a couple mechs up to the top there. Are they they might just try and push in. They're really grouped up, and we might see a real quick brawl here. Shots going down from each side. A Cataphract gets legged jumping over from cReddit. This is a really fast brawl on this map.
Yeah, those Victors are running like full brawl loadouts. AC-20s, medium lasers, SRMs. Those Cataphracts are brawl loadouts, or at least some of them are.
Yeah,
G-Man was AC-24 mediums. This other Cataphract's an AC-10 and PPCs.
G-Man goes down, and SWK is up a kill already. This is a very, very fast engagement. Nobody was beating around the bush in this one. Looks like cReddit is trying to pull back a little bit, get a slightly better engagement, but a lot of SWK's sniper mechs are out in the open, so their lights are in there harassing them. A very interesting fight going down right now. Not a very advantageous position for SWK, I would have to say.
Do you mean for cReddit? Because SWK is currently ahead, and I would give them the position.
Really? Because, well, now that they've backed off...
cReddit is brawling, yes.
Now that they've
managed to get distance and a choke.
Oh yeah, White Death
cReddit has to go
goes
through.
Down 3-2 in favor of SWK currently. After they backed down off that ridge, they really widened that gap. I think cReddit needed to push over the whole time, regardless of where they were at.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. cReddit had like that initial engagement, and then they kind of hesitated, backed off, and then they were like, well, shit, we have to double down on this.
Exactly. And now it's 5-3 in favor.
That hesitation allowed SWK to regroup.
Yep.
Although this is still kind of close.
This is actually really close. 7-5 in favor of SWK, and I know for a fact some of SWK's mechs are very beat up, but a Treb goes down, it's 8-5. Oh, that Cataphract is legged, that 3D's legged. Full health Victor, though, a couple other mechs, but it's 9-5. Yeah, SWK is going to take this one.
Those Victors are actually having a little trouble. They're bumping into each other and clipping all over the place.
Oh yeah, Twinkie goes down, but yeah, 3 SRM4s, 2 medium lasers, and an AC-20. That is nothing to scoff at. Pretty sure it's an XL, though. And yeah. Oh no, that was a rear core. Never mind. 11-6 in favor of SWK. This is their match. just a Jenner left now for credit.
Yeah, and I think that could have gone the other way if cReddit had just committed fully off the bat instead of... Actually, I think they were just trying to rotate around for a better engage, but there's a certain point where you have to just throw it balls to the wall and go.
Yeah, for sure.
If we look at the final score screen...
Didn't realize White Death stream cuts out early.
Yeah. Wolf CP in the Victor 9S, I think he was the longest-lived one, 516 damage. Yeah. If all of their Victors and their other Cataphracts had managed to get in there, I expect you'd see similar damage or greater from the rest of them, and that would have been enough to put it down. On the other side, SWK's side, pretty much everybody across the board got good damage off, except the people who got killed off the bat, like Kata's Firestarter and Ravrik's Cataphract 3D.
Yeah, those brawling builds can really dish out a lot of damage, especially if you leave them alive. You've got to focus them down quick, and you can't let them close. And SWK, with the exception of that very, very quick initial engagement, they did a good job of backing off and keeping credit at a distance. So that
it was a quick and brutal match, only 3 minutes and 43 seconds.
Yeah.
On what could be a very, very drawn-out and tactical game. But
yeah, that is a crazy time for such a brawling game like that, especially on Skirmish, where there's usually a lot of like baiting and playing around. So that was drop number 2. SWK is currently up 2-0 in this best-of-5 series. Anything else you want to say about that series, or we can hit game number 3?
No, I'm just wrapping my head around the brawl deck, but...
Fair enough. Alright, well, let's not let them think too much, guys. Let's drop into game number 3, SWK versus cReddit.
I'm glad you care.
Alright, so it is time for game number 3 between cReddit and SWK. This time, this is the heaviest drop, the 800-ton drop for Marik, and this drop is on Crimson Straits. So Siri, as usual, take us through the drop decks.
So SWK is winning 2-0 in this best of 5, so it is match point. cReddit's up against the wall, and they have to pull this back. Like Raffle said, this is 800 tons. You need 5 different chassis, max 3 each per chassis. From SWK, we are seeing a semi-traditional loadout of Highlander 733 Cheese, Victor Dragon Slayers, 3 of them, 2 Cataphracts, 2 Jenner Fs, a Jenner D, and a Firestarter K. So that's pretty much 8 Assaults and Heavies and 4 Lights. From cReddit, we also have, well... that's pretty darn close in the loadout. They have 3 Highlander 733Cs, 2 Dragon Slayers, 3 Cataphracts, 3 Embers, and they've opted to bring a Kintaro by dropping one of the Victors down to a Cataphract and bumping up the Jenner.
I have to say, that's a surprising choice for this drop, but I guess they'll probably have it run interference for the lights?
I'm wondering if they just had difficulty handling SWK's lights during their pushes, and they feel like those lights have been just slowing down and throwing the pushes into disarray, so they want to give the lights something else to think about, i.e. 5 streaks up the butt. So...
it's a good call.
One thing I'd comment on SWK's side is I found it interesting that they are running a single Jenner D, because 2 streaks on their own, they splash around the mech, and so you end up getting a lot of damage going to the limbs and places you don't want them. And so streaks tend to be better when you have, like, about 6 to 8 total on the field. Otherwise, they just sort of become a crit-seeking weapon, and you have to open everything else up, like with your lasers. Which is doable, but tougher. Whereas when you have that 6 to 8, it gets to that sort of critical mass where you can just burn down straight through pretty much every component on a light.
Yep.
Other than that, I'm wondering if these mechs on cReddit's side are once again brawl, but we can get into the match and see how that goes.
Give us a countdown, Siri.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. I mean, if this is a brawling deck for credit, it depending on how fast they group up and get the push in, they could get quite a good engagement, because SWK is starting on the west side spawn, and they get strung out all the way between, like, the Theta location
Those
and
skirmish spawns, yeah.
the Gamma location. This is, like, the most ridiculously spread out spawn, especially when you consider that the other side spawns, like, within 2 grid squares.
Yeah. This would be... Those are some attack and defense spawns right there. That's what they are. Alright, so SWK, obviously, they're moving to regroup, and you can see Emmy's opening up the map, just checking where everybody is. A little bit of a light skirmish on the top. White Death, actually, is sort of poking over the hill with his light mechs. It looks like cReddit may try and push this hill as fast as possible, try and take the advantage. Because
yeah,
SWK,
if they can get there and go before SWK can fully regroup,
yeah,
then they'll get a limited engagement and should have the initiative. However, if it gets much longer, then Imminent and the other guys with his spawn are going to get up top.
Yep, and they are slowly peeking up there. It looks like, yeah, cReddit's bunched up at the back, but they need to push over right now if they want to have any chance, and I think it's already too late. SWK has most of its mechs up on that ridge now.
Yeah, it might just be me, but I think cReddit hesitated slightly.
I would have to agree.
Granted, again, that's under the assumption that this is a brawl deck.
Yes, that's true.
And we have not been able to confirm that.
Yep. We do see, White Death is poking, making sure that they know exactly where the enemy team is, and it looks like cReddit is happy to just kind of sit on the back of this ridge and wait until... Not quite sure for what, but they are clearly waiting for something.
Yeah, SWK is happy to oblige them, though. If you see on Immy's side, those Victors and Cataphracts getting up on the left,
yep,
they get much better angles down into cReddit's position than cReddit is able to get back. And so the longer this situation stays like this, the bigger SWK's advantage is going to get.
Yeah, and those Highlanders, they're in a good spot over there because they've got all right side weapons, and they can just hug that left side hill and only expose as much of themselves as they want to get their shots off.
Actually, we got a readout on Delta, counting Notice Kotar. He is 2 BBCs, 2 Ultras on his Highlander, so this is not a brawl deck, or at least not a full brawl deck.
I think SWK might be preparing for a push.
Well, like I said, they've been getting that advantage. The Dragon Slayer didn't catch the pilot name, but he's already heavy red CT.
Yeah.
And they're just murdering this position. This is much better for the Delta 4 side than the Delta 5 side.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you think back to our earlier cast where SJR was in a similar position against BsK, that's why BsK didn't go here.
Yeah, exactly. You've gotta know the terrain and the layout and what's gonna work for your team. And yeah, that Dragon Slayer's taking a lot of damage. Red armor, CT, lots of shots going over. I think SWK is just probably gonna snipe this position until they either get a pick and have some better odds, or until they feel like they can pull back. Yeah, some more good shots goes down. A kill actually for SWK. They take 1 kill over cReddit. I didn't catch who made that, but that's a great snipe. It was probably on that Victor. cReddit is really pinned. Oh, a little bit of freezing on White Death stream, but that's all right. They popped a UAV to kind of check and see where everybody is up high on that hill. They know exactly where SWK is, but there's not really anything they can do about it right now. I mean, they're down.
Yeah, SWK is actually positioned 1 or 2 lights just to keep an eye out on their back, but that's even kind of unnecessary right now.
Yeah, it's it's looking like a very favorable engagement for SWK right now. I can't tell if cReddit is afraid to move away, but it seems like they're taking more damage. They're taking way more damage than they're giving, and they're not really trying to shift away from this position at all. It seems like kind of a blunder, to be honest.
I'm wondering if it's just an inexperienced thing and they haven't played enough matches in this position to realize how bad the terrain is stacked here.
Yeah. Yeah, because it takes a couple times before you realize that you can't out jump snipe this. The angles are just all wrong. Oh, fucking brilliant CT shot from Immy and his Dragon Slayer. Oh, that wasn't even CT. That was visual left torso on that Highlander. He's down to PPC already. Another shot and he'll be out all of his weapons. Yeah, so it looks like SWK, they are more than happy to just sit back here, out-snipe them, and wait for, wait to be up, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what else they're going for. Yeah, another kill for SWK. It's currently 2-0 in their favor, and, you know, if you look at the percentages, the lowest one is Third World. Oh no, that's not true. Goat's at 64%, but that's in a cataphract. 76, 65, 82. Another kill for PSU, 3-0. SWK at this point is in a very commanding lead. You can come back from three mechs lost, but in this situation, this is such a good position. It cannot be overstated enough.
Yeah, and they don't have to ball up and push. They are up. Ooh.
Oh.
Immy.
Red CT.
Immy, don't team shoot. That's bad.
Oh no, do it more. Do it more.
They're up 3-0. They don't need to push. They are happy with their position. They'll just keep wearing them down. cReddit is in the position where they have to make something happen, but it's way too far gone for that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's at least 2 or 3 mechs I've seen over, and SWK realizes how many mechs they have cored. Their lights pour over from the top of the mountain, and they push in. Imminent takes a kill. Revik takes G-Man down 5-0 in favor of SWK, and this is looking like a pretty rough game for cReddit. Yeah, Third World takes down Ignotus, and Tony's Rex takes another kill, 7-0. Ember tries to come in from behind and sneak off a pick on some of SWK's mechs. Takes out one of Imminent's PPCs, going for that right torso. White Death, our streamer for cReddit, goes down 9-0 in favor of SWK. Just 3 mechs remaining. Tony goes down, kills himself. I don't know how that... Did he overheat?
No idea.
He's got to have overheated. Anyway, Tony...
one thing to point out is how fresh Lima, that last Highlander, is.
Yep.
And that's one thing that happens when you have that superior positioning, is that you just find the angle to work on one guy at a time.
Yep.
And the other guys are just out of the fight. Whereas on your side, when everybody's pop-tarting, your damage ends up spread.
Yep.
And so you keep more of your force intact for longer periods of time.
Yep. After those first 2 games, which were really good from cReddit, it's rough to have a game like that. But SWK took a very commanding position, and they made great use of it. So that is game number 3 and the final game of this best of 5 series. SWK takes out cReddit.
Yeah, and props to cReddit. Those first 2 did end up quite close in the end. They went down and then they rallied to draw even, but just wasn't quite enough on those first 2, and SWK swung it back in their favor. Despite the demoralizing loss on this last one with a 12-3 rout, I think cReddit deserves props for bringing a fight to what was Marik's #1 team last season.
Yeah, there were some good games to watch. All right, well that's it for tonight. Some good games. It's fun to bring you. I'm glad we finally got around to that Remnant Invitational game. Siri's been nagging at me for days about that one. But, yeah.
It's almost like your cell phone wasn't on today.
Dude, I will take complete responsibility for that one. But yeah, thanks to everybody. I know this wasn't live streamed, but thanks to anybody who's watching on YouTube. As always, thanks Siri for helping me with these casts, and hopefully we'll be getting more and more of these up in days to come. Any last words, Siri?
I like turtles.
Alright, and I am Ruff Waffle. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.
Night, everyone.